Hi guys, welcome back to my last Epoch run. We started out at version 1.0, now it's at version 1.0.1.2, just smaller updates to it, no big deal. Nothing really to mention. I got a respec, I just want to check my guy. Let's see, Spellblade, everything's fine there. Level 18, okay. Let's see.
I guess the criticism of Netanyahu has been is he's not making any distinction. And the talk was that if Donald Trump got back in the White House, he would show unequivocal support for things that Netanyahu is doing right now. I don't know whether you concur with that. There is no easy answer to that, but what do you think?
Yeah, I've seen
Transfer crafting items button.
civilians, but how do you defeat an enemy that hides within civilians? I mean, think back to the Vietnam War and some of these, think back to Iraq, some of these city by city conflicts that the United States has had. It is a very difficult problem set, right? At one end, you want to cut off the enemy. At the other end, you don't want to be seen, killing innocent people, and that's the spot Israel's in from the United States.
Okay.
The sooner we can help Israel eradicate Hamas, period, the sooner everyone will be safe.
All right, I just did want to pick your fine brain on that, Congressman, because it's breaking news and this relief effort in Gaza ongoing. I'd like to go back to the border. Of course, you've been very concerned about the lack of progress on security, on dealing with the migrant surge. The president apparently in his State of the Union address signed some executive orders on things like asylum and who qualifies for that. We don't know how far he will go, but he's doing the one thing he's advocated, taking action on his own. What do you think?
Yeah, the devil's going to be in the details. Many people talk about us that live along the border. You'll have, guest after guest that claims to be a border expert, but nobody seems to want to help us. They just want to talk about us.
Okay.
And I've given up on the president, to be honest, Neil. I think I've heard enough.
These skills and everything are fine. I'm not worried about these guys.
I'm alone. The people I represent
Maybe.
feel as if we're alone. It's the reason why I'm circumventing the White House. I'm going straight to the directors and the secretaries. I had a meeting this week with the director of ICE. What happened to Laken Riley is an absolute tragedy and should never happen in this country. And one of the things I asked him was how many criminal illegal aliens are at large right now. He said thousands. So I worry, yes, how do we get here? That's a problem. Everyone can talk about how we got here. I just want us to get out of here, and I want to make sure that there aren't more Lincoln Rileys around the country. And part of that is, one, we can't get blank checks.
It's a nice
we
one.
can't just write a check and assume DHS is going to fix a problem, because they haven't. They've only made it worse. At the same time, you can't remove funding from the organization that's trying to do its job. One of the things that he told me...
It's a build I'm thinking of later with ICE, but that's later on. Okay. Let's check out. Like, these ones are fine, right? I have no qualms about these, but what about my passive tree?
What do you do about something like that? We're a country where you're deporting folks to.
Okay.
Isn't taking them back. This is why I love coming on this show, because you understand the details in it. And one of the conversations, I recently visited Mexico. I met with the two leading presidential candidates that are going to replace Lopez Obrador, both of them. And one of the things that I asked them was, hey, look, the United States doesn't have a great relationship with Venezuela. That's part of what the administration is saying. Hey, we can't deport these people back to Venezuela. But you know who does? Mexico has a great relationship with Venezuela. So what if I told you we deported these criminal illegal aliens by the thousands to Mexico, and Mexico deported them by the thousands to Venezuela? Kind of a leapfrog approach, if you will. I was very clear. I go, this is something that would show Mexico is a partner in helping us secure this border. And if you want federal funding from the United States, so by the way, I sit on the House Appropriations Committee, this is the level of support I'm looking for. And if you don't, that's fine. Well, you'll get more of the same. And I will not advocate to help Mexico in some of these things. This is where the details matter.
Well, that's an important distinction of detail and a good idea. Hopefully people will be open to listening to it. Congressman, always great having you on. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil.
Congressman Gonzalez on that. Well, how the mighty fall, I'm not talking about Donald Trump in these legal cases, from star prosecutor to out on her Fannie Willis. It could happen.
Okay, we'll get to these later in the game, I guess.
Did you say lowest or Lowe's price?
It's basically the same thing. If you find a better price somewhere else, we'll match it. Get the Lowe's price with our lowest price guarantee. We got this. We got you.
It ain't my dad's razor, Dad. Hey, watch it. It's from Gillette Labs. This green bar releases trapped hairs from my face.
Game changer.
Well, the Flex, this contours to it. So the 5 blades can get virtually every hair in one strip for the ultimate Gillette shaving experience.
The best the man can get is
Gillette Labs. Everyone say Space Mod.
Meanwhile, at a Verbo, when other vacation rentals are just relax, try one you'll actually like.
There he is.
I'm a 79-year-old power.
This guy down there with the brain.
New York State for my age bracket.
Mr. Brain Man.
Hello. See, the body is remarkable. It'll adapt.
Okay, this is it.
Your body needs to be fueled. And depending on the fuel you put in is how your body will adapt. I found for me, my body adapts better eating healthier food, putting better things in. I don't have the discipline to put together all of that fruit and vegetable thing. Forget about it. And Balance of Nature helps me do that. I take Balance of Nature because I see the benefits for me. I'm reaping the benefit of every time. There's no question in my mind. Otherwise, I wouldn't take it.
Start your journey with Balance of Nature supplements. Get 35% off plus $10 off any additional sets with your first order as a preferred customer by using discount code Fox News.
We're traveling all across
5-second cooldown.
people about their hearts. Who wants to talk about their heart? How's your heart? How's your heart?
good.
Is it?
I don't know.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Good. Sure, I think so.
How do you know? It doesn't come with a manual. He's like, oh, I got the 20,000 day checkup, right? Let me show you something. Put 2 fingers right on those pads. Look at that. That's your heart.
That is pretty awesome.
With Cardio Mobile, you can take a medical grade EKG in just 30 seconds from anywhere. Cardio Mobile is proven to detect atrial fibrillation, one of the leading causes of stroke, and it's the only personal EKG that's FDA cleared to detect normal heart rhythm, bradycardia, and tachycardia.
How much do you think this costs?
Probably in the hundreds.
$79.
Oh, wow.
That could be cheaper than taking gas.
Checking your heart anytime, anywhere has never been easier. Don't wait. Get Cardio Mobile today for just $79 at cardia.com or Amazon.
A lot of people are saying is this could be the night the lights went out in Georgia, but at least on the fact that Wells, the prosecutor, going after what Donald Trump, and now it's possible that she could be kicked off handling this entire case, and the case itself could go away. A little hard to say, but Katie Chakowski is probably a good read of things and what is happening from the former federal prosecutor, a constitutional law attorney. Katie, we do know the judge is considering or weighing this over the next couple of weeks. He has some options. What are they?
The judge has a lot of options, and he also has a lot to consider here. Essentially, the judge can decide whether he is going to remove Ms. Willis and Mr. Wade from the case, and then also determine whether that would, by extension, disqualify her entire office. I think that it would. That's essentially the crux of what this decision is for. That's pending before the court. But if he does disqualify them, there will likely be follow-on motions to dismiss the case entirely if it's transferred to a new DA's office. So there's definitely more to come if there is a disqualification, for sure.
Is there the possibility that, and can the judge go this far to say there's nothing here now, we have to start from scratch everything?
If the judge finds, the big question that's kind of pivotal here is whether it's enough that there's an appearance of impropriety, or if he actually has to find a direct conflict of interest. So I think there's still some significant factual determinations that he has to make in terms of where that line is drawn, and that's going to be based on prior case law. But ultimately, if this case is transferred to another district attorney's office, that will start the process likely from the very beginning, or at least very far back from where it is now, certainly not on the verge of going to trial. And so even if it does continue, it will be significantly delayed, if not dismissed altogether at some point.
And Katie, you were nice enough to explain this process to me last night, but there is this issue. It is a state case. It's not a federal case. Early on, there's been a push, I think, by the Trump folks to make it a federal case. The advantage, if you're Donald Trump, and that is to get elected president. It's easier to have this thing tossed out. Not so if it's a state matter, but could you explain that and where that goes?
Well, this is a state case. Some of the defendants early on, Mark Meadows, for example, tried to get this case moved to federal court based on their allegations that the offenses were related to their role as federal officials. That was denied, so it's possible that it still could be moved, but it won't become an entirely federal case, such like the January 6th case in D.C., which kind of covers similar allegations. That's a federal prosecution altogether. So the removal to federal court was denied. That is something that could be renewed if this case is brought by another district attorney, a state district attorney, but it has, for this purpose, at this point, been denied for those folks who had requested that.
You know, part of that thing you gave us to know, Barnett and I, is that, you know, Donald Trump gets elected president, he can go to the Justice Department and say, all right, this is done. This
Good.
is out.
It looks fine.
But the Attorney General has to agree with it, right? Whoever picks as Attorney General, and you keep going through Attorney Generals like Richard Nixon to get what he wants. But how does that process go? If we get that far, and the president-elect, in this case Donald Trump, if that happens, he's now president, and he's pushing that point with the Justice Department.
If he's elected president, the case goes away. The president has pardon authority over all federal offenses, and that can be enacted before a trial. So he owns the Justice Department. It is an executive agency. So if he's elected, these cases
He'd be pardoning himself. He'd be essentially forgiving himself.
And that is an unprecedented moment to be in, but I think constitutionally it's supported because the president has that carte blanche authority to issue pardons on any federal offenses and also to direct his Justice Department to not pursue any certain prosecution. But in terms of the state case, it doesn't have that authority. However, there are some other issues for the Supreme Court, namely the immunity issue of the presidency that could extend even to state prosecutions, in my opinion.
All right, but thank you for that, Katie. We're having somewhat of difficulties there. Always good seeing it. Thank you for some of that clarification. Just wonder how that will go down. It goes down the way some suspect it might eventually. Katie Chakowski on that. In the meantime, we keep telling you about Super Tuesday, but you know there were three states having various contests today, caucuses in Idaho and Missouri. And in Michigan, the Republican State Convention is giving up the remaining delegates up for grabs from the state's primary. That's where you'll find our Grady Triple Grade.
Hey, Neil, and the lion's share of delegates are up for grabs at this state GOP convention today. Coming up, we'll tell you which way things might be leaning here in Michigan and how it could impact the overall race for the presidential nomination on the Republican side. That's next.
There are some things that work better together, like your workplace benefits and retirement savings. Voya provides tools that help you make the right investment and benefit choices so you can reach today's financial goals and look forward to a more confident future. Voya, well planned, well invested, well protected.
Your pride and joy is measured in acres. Keep them looking their best with versatile utility vehicles, professional grade mowers, and the #1 rated tractor brand for durability and owner experience.
Explore the mighty Mississippi River with American Cruise Lines. Known for its southern hospitality, historical battlefields, and exquisite regionally inspired cuisine, the Mississippi River beckons exploration. Aboard the newest fleet of modern riverboats in America, experience award-winning shore excursions, including New Orleans, Memphis, and Nashville. In your spacious stateroom, magnificent views await you from your private balcony, while our gracious onboard staff ensures that your voyage will be unforgettable. Begin your journey today with the leader in U.S. cruising. Visit AmericanCruiseLines.com or call for a free cruise guide. Small ship cruising, done perfect.
regime in Iran is able to produce 7 nuclear weapons.
As insight plus Stephen Calabrese reacts to drastic defiance on Life 30 in the Man.
My family came to Canada because the situation in our country wasn't the safest. I had trouble fitting in, and learning the language was very hard. Therefore, making friends was also very hard. The program helped me a lot because I met other kids who were going through the same struggles as me. So I was able to relate and find somewhere where I could fit in. Thanks to your support of United Way, I'm able to achieve my dreams and become a doctor in the future.
If alcohol builds a wall around you, it doesn't let you see where you're going. It keeps you feeling isolated and alone. That makes you feel hopeless. Know this. We're here to help if you want us to. It's never too early or too late to ask for help with a drinking problem. Alcoholics Anonymous, there is a way out. For more information, visit AA.org and download the meeting guide.
In a time for war and peace, in a time for doubt, just in
Well, it's still early in the year, but this year is proving that presidential election years can be very lucrative for the markets and for investors. That was certainly the case yesterday. All three major averages doing okay. The NASDAQ and the S&P 500 hitting records. The Dow not far from one yet again. But all of this on the heels of optimism that technology is back. And it's not just NVIDIA and artificial intelligence proving it. It's just that there's a great deal of investment going on, which buoyed all the markets in the month of February. They're all up appreciably year to date. And this, many argue, could be the wind behind the president's back. There is a disconnect, quite a lag between how the market does, by the way, now, the president or anyone in the general election. But generally, it's better if they're going up than if they're going down. How's that falling out in Michigan right now, where they're wrapping up and finishing off the Republican State Convention, giving up the final delegates of the Michigan primary? Donald Trump could be a big beneficiary of all of that. The markets are not, notwithstanding. Grady Trimble in Grand Rapids. Hey, Grady.
Hey, Neil, even before millions of voters go to the polls on Super Tuesday, there are crucial delegates up for grabs in the GOP primary, both here in Michigan and other states. Voters went to the polls in Michigan earlier this week, where they handed a lot of delegates to former President Donald Trump. There were 16 total. 12 went to the former president, 4 to former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley. But here at this state GOP convention today, a lion's share of Michigan's total delegates, 39 of them, are still up for grabs and will be divvied up here. The delegate count stands right now across the country after several early states. Former President Trump with 122, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley with 24. The magic number for either of these two candidates to win the GOP nomination is 1,215. Right now, here at this venue, representatives from each of Michigan's 13 congressional districts are holding individual meetings, and in those meetings, they'll pick their preferred candidates. So far, 4 of the 13 have made their choice. We're waiting on official results later today. Each of the 13 districts will award 3 delegates, and that brings us to that total of 39. We spoke with Michigan GOP chair and U.S. ambassador to the Netherlands under former President Trump, Pete Hoekstra, and he thinks we'll see a big win for Trump here today. Do you expect the former president to get all 39 of the delegates up for grabs today?
I mean, with the way the caucuses are structured, winner take all, that's probably the most likely outcome. But, voters have a way of surprising people. That may happen today.
We'll see if there are any surprises here or in several other states holding contests this weekend, including Idaho, Missouri, and in the District of Columbia, where voters have the weekend to make their voices heard. So, Neil, these two candidates left, former President Trump and former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, they can still snag up a few delegates before the all-important Super Tuesday in just a few days. Neil?
Yeah, on that day of 874 at stake, as you said, it's going to be a big one. Grady, thank you as always, my friend Grady Trimble. I want to go to Daniel Lippman, the Politico White House, and Washington Reporter. And Daniel, if you don't mind my switching parties right now and focus on at least Joe Biden, and I did want to mention the context of Michigan, because though he won the state, 13% voted uncommitted. In other words, that they didn't like the choices. And I'm just wondering, because we've seen this happen before, where the turnout isn't that robust. The president has the backing of many in his party, but far from the passion of many in his party. So what do you make of it?
Yeah, these numbers are clearly concerning to people in the White House, which has been hoping to focus people's attention on infrastructure, on all the bills that they had passed. But for Arab American voters in Michigan, that really doesn't seem as relevant or important to their lives as, hey, I have some relatives in Gaza going through turmoil or getting killed, and then we have American military support to Israel. And so Biden feels like he has to, there's a lot of, impetus in the party. Please send Biden to Michigan repeatedly over the next 6-7 months to avoid making the same mistakes like Hillary Clinton did in ignoring that state and others.
Yeah, very good point. I mean, that did cost her by not going to those 6 or 7 so-called battleground states. The same 6 or 7 are right now Donald Trump leads. That could secure an electoral vote win for him, just capturing those. If you assume the normal run down states, he's more likely to take. Still way too early. But what is your sense right now of the race and how it's going? By that I mean, in the case of Donald Trump, all these legal cases that could get pushed back, and all these problems within the party for Joe Biden that are piling up.
It's clearly a kind of a jump ball. I don't buy that Trump is a sure thing because we haven't seen certainty on the legal cases. If he gets convicted of the January 6th case by Jack Smith, if the Supreme Court lets that go through before the election, and that may very well happen, then that's a big blow. You look at the vote of Nikki Haley getting a lot of her voters out in South Carolina. Well, I know she only won 40%, but that's still a big chunk of the party. And you have 1 in 5 Republican voters in that state and many other states who say they won't vote for Trump. And so those are kind of the uncommitted on the Republican side. That is rhetoric calling her bird brain. That's not going to win those voters over.
But it has won over Republican voters, and you mentioned about the possibility of a conviction. Donald Trump has weathered all these indictments, 90 plus, and all these various criminal cases, whether they're put off or not. A conviction might change that if any one of them could not be put off. But I wonder, in the general sense, whether it will put much of the dent in Donald Trump's popularity. If not with many in his own party, I can see independents and others. But how do you see that falling out?
I agree with you that a lot of this is baked in, that people know who Donald Trump is. They're not that surprised that he's been charged. And so what Biden really has to do is make this a choice between him and Trump. He can tell those voters who are in Michigan and other young progressive voters, hey, do you want Trump who has promised to bring back a Muslim ban, or do you want me and I'm trying not airlifting aid into Gaza? Do you think Trump would have done that? That's kind of the argument that they're going to make.
Still too early, as you say, my friend. Always good having you on, Daniel Lippman. Good seeing you again.
Thank you, Neil.
It was certainly not her intention or her family's intention, but this Georgia nursing student, Lincoln Riley, was killed by potentially an illegal migrant, has a lot of people saying she herself has become the poster child for this tragic situation at the border. How that plays out to this?
There's an old saying in the Navy, the toughest job in the Navy is the Navy wife. And you've made the deployments, and you've been the wife at home, or you've been the spouse at home. You understand what I'm talking about. Your spouse has earned the right to apply for a VA home. The New Day 100 loan allows you to borrow to 100% of your home's value. So if you're in a situation where you need some help financially,
give us a call.
Call 1-888-928-2085.
Your ancestry is so much more than names and dates. It's the story of your family then and now. A story that made your name mean something. A story you're still writing. So discover your heritage, preserve your traditions, represent all that makes you.
We're a healthcare company helping hundreds of thousands of people lose weight. And we're now offering treatment with GLP-1, the revolutionary weight loss medications everyone is talking about. With Row, get the online coaching and care you need to lose 15 to 20% of your body weight with one weekly shot. Losing 15 to 20% of your body is possible with Row. Get started at row.co/lose20.
There comes a time when you realize the kitchen you used to love is ready for a refresh. Let a Cabinets to Go design expert help you craft the look you want with quality products in today's designer styles and colors, backed by a transferable lifetime warranty. Out with the old, in with the new. It's that easy. From design to install, we do it all. Plus, get 0% APR for a limited time. Visit cabinetstogo.com to schedule your free design consultation today. Cabinets to Go. Wow for less.
These politicians
Oh, fuck.
never agree.
Well, we don't always agree. Like, you're into politics.
Fucking bullshit.
It stresses me out.
You say hot, I say cool.
You like sleeping in luxury, I like spending less.
I guess that's why we agreed on this sofa mattress.
Maybe America needs a sofa.
At least we'd be comfortable disagreeing. Sofa, luxury mattresses made affordable.
When I started Laura Geller Beauty over 25 years ago, I realized there weren't enough makeup options for women with mature skin. So I put together an amazing kit of everyday products for women over 40. I call it the Daily Routine. Daily Routine comes with our signature Balance and Brighten foundation, our Marbleized Blush, which flatters any skin tone, our Natural Glow highlighter, and of course, our favorite Kabuki brush to apply it. Learn more about Daily Routine at laurageller.com.
I'm Maggie. I've been training for a race that I have. It's the longest endurance race that I've done in my life. I started taking Balance of Nature. It's really important to take care of our health just so we can really be the best that we can be. I have a very strict diet, and Balance of Nature definitely helps me do that.
Go to balanceofnature.com and get 35% off plus $10 off any additional sets as a preferred customer by using discount code FOX2.
What the fuck, man?
It's illegal. It's breaking our laws. I mean, they should have been deported. And now we have, you know, unfortunately, in a horrific crime, a dead 22-year-old. That dead 22-year-old at the hands, we're told, of an illegal migrant who had escaped the system and authorities' attention time and time again. Madison Scarpiano following the developments in Atlanta. Madison.
Neil, yesterday was a dreary day in Riley's hometown of Woodstock, Georgia for her funeral. It's only about 90 miles from the University of Georgia, which is where Riley was killed on her morning jog last week. Hundreds of family and friends came to Woodstock City Church to honor Riley at the private service. The church's lead pastor said in his statement, "Lincoln was special. She was a gift to anyone who knew her. Smart, kind, compassionate, and thoughtful. Don't even begin to scratch the surface." And Riley's death is bringing up a lot of questions and frustrations about how the city of Athens and the country handle illegal immigration.
I think it's a little dangerous to, let illegal immigrants, just kind of run the city without any documentation of who they are.
ICE said Riley's accused killer, Jose Ibarra, came to the U.S. illegally in 2022. Just a few days ago, protesters repeatedly interrupted the Athens mayor during the news conference. The mayor made it clear Athens is not a sanctuary city, while protesters screamed "liar," "justice for Lincoln," and called for him to resign. Former President Donald Trump was at the border Thursday and said he spoke with Riley's devastated parents.
Joe Biden will never say Lincoln Riley's name,
But we will say it, and we will remember it. We're not going to forget her. It's been just a horrible story that we've had to live with for the last few days.
The accused killer's brother will be in federal court on Monday on fraud charges. He was arrested during Riley's death investigation for having a fake green card. Neil?
Thank you very much for all of that. And that, in Atlanta, with us right now is Nicole Hunnicutt, the Republican New York Congresswoman, who's leading an effort with some of her Republican colleagues to change things in the way ICE is notified of any possible migrant arrested on any type of crime. That now is being called Lincoln's Law. They want to get passed, and the sooner the better. Congresswoman, very good to have you.
Well, great to be with you. Thank you, Neil.
Where does that stand right now, this measure, and how much support it has?
Well, as you know, we've been pushing the New York City Council to repeal the law that they put in place with Bill de Blasio back in 2014 that prohibited NYPD from cooperating with ICE. The mayor came out forward making some changes. Now he's kind of backpedaling on that. So it's very difficult for us to get any cooperation from the Democrats to make sure that people who are committing crimes in every city and state are deported. I commend my state senator, Andrew Lanza of Staten Island, who has now introduced legislation on the state level to require all local law enforcement to cooperate with ICE detainer requests. Look, if ICE under Joe Biden is requesting a detainer to deport someone, you know that person is very, very bad. They're probably convicted of a crime in their home country. They've probably been either entered and deported multiple times and are continue to evade authorities, or they've committed a crime here and have been
Always the fat ones.
because Joe Biden, as we know, is just welcoming everyone. In fact, this guy got parole. The person who killed Lincoln got parole from Joe Biden. And then when he was arrested for a crime in New York City, he was released instead of turned over to ICE. So we do need cooperation from the Democrats who control New York City and New York State government if we're going to get something done here. But we got to keep the pressure on them.
Just to be clear, he wasn't paroled personally by Joe Biden. I understand the system essentially allowed him to escape.
Joe Biden's rules.
Okay, that's fine. But I did want to get your sense then how far you think this can go. The president has said in the State of the Union address to reverse some of the policies he enacted when he took over on day one of his administration, including some of the asylum rules that were very, open and to even fellows like this guy. And I'm just wondering whether you think that will do much, because it's kind of open-ended.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about, Neil. He came in and made a number of changes, roughly over 60 actually, different changes using his executive authority, and included making changes to parole, where he allowed X number of Venezuelans to come in and seek parole. And it's unfortunate that some of those individuals have gone on to commit crimes. We saw, police officers being attacked in New York City as well. So I think what we want is for Joe Biden to use that very same authority that he used on day one to actually make changes for the good.
All right, I should say we have called the New York Mayor Adams' office and ICE officials in Washington. We've not heard back. Hope Springs Journal that we will, Congresswoman. But I want to step back for this because you want to make this that same State of the Union address a major statement that what's happening at the border is a major concern, including one of your guests who I'm sitting with, Kitchen.
That's right. I'm bringing NYPD Lieutenant Ben Currian, who was one of the officers attacked by the individuals who are being kept in New York City at one of these migrant hotels that our mayor opened. I believe it's important to bring in, number one, to show support and thanks to our NYPD officers who do really an amazing job under difficult conditions, and they oftentimes do not have the support of the local elected officials. But also to bring attention to how this border policy of our president is affecting cities like mine. This is unnecessary what happened there. It should never have happened. And that is why we're calling on Joe Biden to use the existing authorities that he has under 1225, sections 1225 and 1182, where he can, on his own, reinstate remain in Mexico. He can end catch and release. He can make changes, as you mentioned, to the asylum and to parole. He can actually shut down the border completely if he wanted to. In fact, these are all authorities that President Trump used at one time or another. So we're just asking for common sense. I'm the daughter of immigrants. We want to have immigration immigration to continue legally. I've actually helped over 100 people become U.S. citizens from my district who have come here the right way and did everything, follow the rules. That's all we're asking for, is for people to follow the rules and for this administration to stop allowing people who are dangerous people, unvetted people, to come into our country.
And speaking of President Trump, Congresswoman, you are always, and I was just looking this morning, on the short list of possible running mates for him. And that is unnamed yours. You're on that list. Are you?
I don't think it's me. I think you're confusing me with my colleague Elise Stefanik. But
I see you a lot of times, and I'm just wondering what you think about it. I mean, would you entertain that? Would you?
No, obviously, I don't think I'm interested in that role. I like my job in Congress. I want to do the best I can for Staten Island and Brooklyn. This is a job I've always wanted, and I'm here, and I want to do the best I can with the resources that we have. I hope to serve with President Trump, however, with him being the president and me being in Congress, because I think we'll be able to get a lot more done for the American people and address these issues. Remember, when President Trump was there, right, we had a 50-year low of unemployment record. People were working, wages were up, people were being lifted out of poverty, our border was secure.
You named the most potent case on migration and what's happening there. I don't want to sound like I'm being obnoxious about that, but that I think could be something very key to your party, because it was ahead of this. That's an issue very early on.
That's right. It is a big issue, and I continue to advocate and work with my colleagues for common sense. That's all we're asking for, law and order and some common sense, and we're not getting it from this administration.
All right, Congresswoman, always good to see you. Thank you very much. We have a lot more, including these incredible wildfires and grid issues that are suddenly bedeviling Texas. What's this?
There are many ways to do things. At Old Dominion Freight Line, we do them this way. This way has people who start early, people who care and inspire each other to do things the way they should be done. This way uses technology and goes the extra mile. Deliver your promises on time, every time. This way is why we're the #1 national LTO carrier for quality. For us, this way is the right way, which is why it's the only way we go.
With so many choices on Booking.com, there are so many Tina Feys I could be. So I hired body doubles to help me out. Spalurgi, Tina loves a hotel near Rodeo Drive.
Oh, Tina. Fire team from the farm stay to ride this horse.
Glenn Close?
With millions of possibilities.
You can book whoever you want to be. That's my line.
Booking.com.
Booking.com.
This is a keepsake frame. This is actually a photo from my wedding. I'm Adam Weiss, founder and CEO of Keepsake, a mobile app that makes it easy to have your photos printed, framed, and shipped to your doorstep. Just choose a photo that you love. You can preview it in over 100 frames, and in a couple of days, you can receive your photo in a beautiful hand-made frame. So if you've got a special photo on your phone, install the free Keepsake app. We would love a chance to frame it. 47. Aneurysm. Did he have life insurance? Do you? Gotta get on it. Check out Select. Trust me, the peace of mind is worth it. Life insurance is too important to put off another day. That's why SelectQuote makes getting coverage you need easy. For less than $1 a day. Now get up to a $2 million policy, no medical and same-day coverage. Visit SelectQuote.com to be shopped for save. How do you make a blood pressure support tube from the #1 selling beef brand even more effective and more delicious? By making it with grapes. That's right, super grapes, supercharged with CoQ10 and a powerful grapeseed extract for nearly 2 times more effective blood pressure support than diet and exercise alone. Discover super grapes with CoQ10, 2-in-1 heart support, all in one irresistible chew. Get a free month supply at supergrapes.com. The Omaha Steaks semi-annual sale is back. Right now, you'll save 50% site-wide on America's best steaks, chicken, burgers, and so much more. All backed by our 100% guarantee that you'll love every bite. Never tried Omaha Steaks? Save an extra $30 with promo code FIRSTTIME. Visit omahasteaks.com/TV today and
Sink your teeth into big savings on the quality you deserve.
A fiery mess in the Texas Panhandle right now as out-of-control fires from the deadly Smokehouse Spring wildfire continue to consume more and more land. Rick Redbooth has more from the Fox Weather Center. Rick.
Hey, it's such a scary week across the Texas Panhandle. 4 different fires that are burning. One of them about 140,000 acres. That's a Wood Abuse fire, but it's a Smokehouse Creek one that's 1 million acres burned. About 90 miles long. If you go from one side of this all the way to the other side, that's the path of this storm, of this wildfire that is burned. Grassy area. This isn't like tree forest fires. This is grassy area. It catches on fire really quickly. 1,050,000 of those. Those acres are in Texas alone, and this makes this the largest fire ever in the state of Texas. And 1 week ago, fire hadn't even started yet. Take a look at what happens today and tomorrow. Fire conditions are critical. We're going to have very low humidities. We're going to get really strong winds, and we also have temperatures that are incredibly warm for March 2nd. Take a look at these temperatures across the high plains. 67 in Denver, but go towards the Panhandle of Texas and Oklahoma. We're going to be talking about temperatures pushing the 80-degree mark. So really warm, really dry, really windy conditions, and no rain coming at least for the next number of days. So that's a problem for us. I want to real quickly be able to show you 2 other stories that we're talking about today. One is real rain across much of the East Coast, but the bigger story is this big, massive winter storm that's hitting the Sierra Nevada of California. By the time this is done, by tomorrow, some spots probably pushing 10 feet of snow and very windy conditions. We had a wind gust 190 miles an hour with this. Highest wind gust ever, Neil, in California was 199 miles an hour. We had a wind gust yesterday of 190 miles an hour. So incredible storm going on across California as well.
And it's non-stop to your point, Rick. Thank you very much, my friend Rick. Glad to follow all of that. Well, we keep attacking the Houthi rebels, and they keep attacking back. And now signs that the cargo ship they hit a couple of weeks ago, well, it sank. What do we do now?
Meet the Jennifers. Gen X, Gen Y, and Gen Z. Each planning their future through the Chase mobile app. Gen X is planning a summer in Portugal with some help from JP Morgan Wealth Plan. Let's go, Whiskers. Gen Y is working with a banker to budget for her birthday. You only turned 30 once. And Gen Z, her credits golden. Hello, new apartment. 3 gens getting ahead with Chase. Solutions that grow with you. One bank for now, for later, for life. Chase, make more of what's yours.
I'm former Major League pitcher Andy Pettit. I teamed up with Tunnel to Towers after seeing their life-changing work with military and first responder families. Now we're expanding our mission to help veterans struggling with homelessness. We want to help them rebuild their lives not only by giving them a home, but by providing the services they need. The funds are going to everything that T2T is doing, to the military families, whether it's building homes for them, the first responders. He's making a strong push to try to help the homeless around the country. And so I know they're buying hotels up in a lot of the major cities, and they're going to be down in Houston on November 9th, opening up a new facility down there that we've done. And so just a lot of great things going on. So that's what all this money, I believe, is being raised today is going to, is just their ultimate goals. Please join me in donating at t2t.org.
Dysfunction, madness, no end in sight. Senators Banks and Marshall on our southern border crisis. Plus, Senate candidate Garvey details his primary race strategy live on Sunday Morning Futures with Maria Bartiromo.
People are talking?
Yeah, they're impressed.
Inspired by a true story. Next Goal Wins is heartfelt and hilarious.
Whoa! We have 0 talent, skill, or understanding of the game. Stop it!
The perfect underdog movie.
They're weak. They are not weak.
It's Taika Waititi's best film yet.
We've worked too long and hard for this.
You've only been here a few days. Next Goal Wins.
Sarah, you got this. Okay? But they lost.
Not really. Not where it's at.
Every penny I was making was spent on drugs. When I found out about what the United Way could do, I was sitting inside the methadone clinic on the phone, talking with someone saying, I'm gonna lose everything. I got nothing. I might as well be dead. I'm 14 years clean. Never thought that would be possible. United Way made that possible.
Well, Rick, a British cargo ship that was hit by Houthi rebels a couple of weeks ago has finally sunk. That actually is a first right now in this war that has seen those shipping in the area to avoid the area. Insurance and related costs are rocketing as a result. We've got General Joseph Appel with us right now, the former CENTCOM commander. Commander, this is an interesting development in and of itself because we have continued to attack these positions. But apparently to little avail, and they seem to have the wherewithal to attack back. What do you make of it?
Well, I think it's important, Neil, to look at the nature of our response and then, of course, look at the nature of the Houthis. Our actions today have largely been defensive. They've mostly been about protecting shipping and protecting American resources that are going through the region. It hasn't been completely about removing the capacity or capability of the Houthis. Our attacks, while we've had several waves of them, we've just had one as recently as the 29th, have really been focused on going after the Houthis' ability to attack. So we've been hitting launch sites, radars, some command and control locations, some supply depots that are in position to launch these attacks, but we haven't gone after the supply chains. Our attacks have largely been limited to U.S. and UK resources, and we've been unable to date to leverage the broader region involved to get involved. There's even countries like Egypt who have a vested interest in the revenue that is generated by the passage of ships through the Red Sea, having to join in this. And of course, none of this is really focused on restoring the confidence of the shipping industry. But then again, you got to look at the Houthis. I mean, this is a group for which there's no accountability. They are employing what I would characterize as terrorist-like tactics here in international waters. They have prevented the delivery of humanitarian aid to Sudan as well as to their own country. And they're continuing to exercise imprecise targeting. Trying to deter groups like this, as we've learned with terrorist organizations over the last several decades, is very, very difficult. These supplies are easily replaced. They are highly innovative. They have not yet paid a price that outweighs the apparent benefit that they are deriving. They get a lot of attention for this. And they are less prone to control from Iran. So what we've seen in terms of Iran putting pressure on groups in Iraq and Syria, for example, we have not seen them effectively do that in Yemen yet.
We don't know a lot of times, I'm curious that last comment you made. Is it possible, because Iran seems to intimate this, that the Houthis are going rogue, they're doing their own thing?
Well, I think there's always been a bit of independence by the Houthis. They clearly have a relationship with Iran, but they are calling their own shots, and as we've seen over the last several months, they derive a lot of benefit from this. This is a very popular activities they are taking in the Red Sea are very popular among their base, particularly in the western portion of Yemen. So it plays into it and makes them look like they're actually contributing much more wholesomely to the axis of resistance and striking back against what is happening in Gaza.
And it's very, very clear that they still have the wherewithal to do so, and that's a little unnerving. Commander, thank you so much, and for your service to this country.
Yeah, good to be with you, Neil. Thank you.
All right, that'll do it here. We'll continue following these developments and these key races going on today on a Super Tuesday. The news never stops at Fox. We're always here to make sure you're informed.
Lowe's knows. You don't just want a low price.
You want the lowest price. Did you say lowest or lowest price? It's basically the same thing.
You should find a better price somewhere else. We'll match it. Get the lowest price with our lowest price guarantee. You got this. We got you.
I never knew Kat was so cuddly, right? She really loves these delectable squeeze-up treats. Deliciously delectable delectables. You're hilarious. Delectables squeeze-up. Deliciously delectable delectables.
Hello, I'm former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee. A lot of times you can't control the amount of sleep that you're getting. You can't fall asleep or you're tossing and turning all night. You can't get the sleep you need to stay healthy. I know, it's scary, unless you use Relaxium Sleep. Relaxium Sleep is a product that's made from natural ingredients, and it usually works from the very first night you try it. It helps you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed, earning your body those quality hours of sleep that it desperately needs.
Join the hundreds of thousands of people who've experienced the relief and health benefits from getting a great night's sleep and get Relaxium Sleep.
The first time I took Relaxium and I slept through the night, I thought, wow, this worked for me. I could not believe it.
Relaxium Sleep is studied, tested, and designed by a neurologist to help you fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, and wake up refreshed.
Relaxium Sleep worked from the very first night I took it. I had more focus and mental clarity than I've had in years.
Relaxium is drug-free and not addictive, so you can take Relaxium every night and never worry about side effects. And the best part is, it can start working from the very first night.
When I take Relaxium Sleep, I sleep better than I have in years.
I wake up feeling like I've had the best night's sleep.
Stop being afraid and start sleeping your fears away with Relaxium Sleep. Your body and your mind will thank you.
Mike Huckabee is so confident that Relaxium will work for you, he's asked us to give away 1,000 bottles.
If you're not getting calm enough to go to sleep, take Relaxium Sleep. I promise you it'll work.
Get your risk-free bottle of Relaxium Sleep now. It's guaranteed to work or your money back. Visit tryrelaxium.com or call 800-898-9322. That's tryrelaxium.com or call 800-898-9322.
Only 47. Aneurysm. Did he have life insurance? Do you? Gotta get on it. Check out SelectQuote. Trust me, the peace of mind is worth it.
Life insurance is too important to put off another day. That's why SelectQuote makes getting coverage you need easy, for less than $1 a day. Now get up to a $2 million policy with no medical exam and same-day coverage.
Visit SelectQuote.com. We shop, you save.
Donald Trump and Nikki Haley are in North Carolina today, holding rallies this afternoon ahead of Super Tuesday. This as 3 states will be awarding delegates today in the GOP race. Welcome to Fox News Live. I'm delighted to be with you and with my friend Mike.
Molly, welcome back to Washington, D.C. Great to have you. Mike Emanuel, Rick Jenkins. Many wonder if Tuesday will be Haley's last contest. Meanwhile, former President Trump has focused on the top issue for voters, the southern border, where he and President Biden held dueling visits this week. Bill Melugin is live in Raleigh, North Carolina with the latest on the primaries. Bill?
Hey, Mike. Well, they call it Super Tuesday for a reason. 874 delegates up for grabs on Tuesday. And even though both Trump and Biden are still in their respective primaries, both of them have really shifted and started focusing on the general election already. And a brand new New York Times Siena poll is spelling potential trouble for President Biden. Take a look at this graphic right here. That poll asked registered voters, if the election were today, who do you vote for? It shows Trump beating Biden by 5 points, 48 to 43%. Then take a look at the second aspect of the poll here. It asked registered Hispanic voters the same question. That shows Trump winning Hispanics by 6%, 46 to 40%. That is certainly something to keep an eye on in the months ahead. Then take a look at this graphic here. We talked about the delegate count as of this morning. It just changed. You need just over 1,200 to secure the nomination. Trump currently has 140 delegates. Nikki Haley currently has 24 delegates. And as we take a look at this video of them campaigning, both of them are going to be here in North Carolina today. Nikki Haley here in Raleigh, Donald Trump over in Greensboro. Nikki Haley has been swatting down rumors that she is going to potentially go for a third-party ticket, a no-labels ticket. She says she's not interested in that, doesn't want to have a Democrat as her VP. She's also saying she plans to stay in this race as long as she feels she's competitive, and there's a swath of voters out there who don't want either Donald Trump or Joe Biden. As for Trump, he is in North Carolina fresh off his visit to the southern border, as you mentioned, and he is telling supporters if they come out for him on Tuesday, he feels Super Tuesday could be a knockout blow to finally get Haley out of the race so he could pivot towards the general and focus solely on Joe Biden. And back out here live, that same New York Times Siena poll also shows Nikki Haley crushing Joe Biden by 10 points. Also shows her winning Hispanics over Joe Biden my 12th point. She's got an event right here behind us expected to kick off in the next 30 minutes or so. She just picked up 2 key endorsements yesterday from Maine Senator Susan Collins and Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski. So back to you.
Bill Illusion live in Battleground, North Carolina. Bill, thanks. Molly?
Michigan also holding a nominating convention today to allocate its 39 remaining presidential delegates after former President Trump won 12 delegates in the state's primary election. That was earlier this week. Brady Triple is live from Grand Rapids, Michigan, with the latest updates as this unfolds. Brady, to you.
Hey, and we are seeing those updates in real time, Molly. You mentioned that voters went to the polls here in Michigan earlier this week. Former President Trump won 12 delegates. They were divvied up proportionately, so Nikki Haley, the former South Carolina governor, got 4 delegates from voters in Michigan. But here at this convention today, it sounds like the delegates from the Michigan GOP, as they're voting in real time, are overwhelmingly awarding delegates to former President Trump as they divvy up the lion's share of those delegates that will help former President Trump potentially reach the nomination. I want to show you a live look inside one of the meeting rooms as I kind of explain how this process works, because this split primary process is a little bit unusual. So right now, as we speak, representatives from each of Michigan's 13 congressional districts are holding individual meetings where they will pick their preferred candidate. Each of the 13 districts will award 3 delegates for a total of 39. In fact, 8 of those districts have already awarded 24, all of them going to former President Trump. I spoke with Michigan GOP Chair Pete Hoekstra today as he predicted a big win for Trump today, but also on Super Tuesday, he says that is going to give him major momentum over Haley in the next couple of days.
I think she's got a real challenge now going into multiple states on a single day and creating an identity in a campaign. I think the format, the structure, the timing all favor someone with a high degree of visibility and identity, which is former President Trump.
Okay, so the delegates are ticking in real time here. I know Bill just showed a graphic with 140 for former President Trump, but because of the results of this convention so far, it's actually ticked up to 146 just in the last couple of minutes as we await the results from the rest of the congressional district meetings here at the GOP primary convention. The magic number to win the GOP nomination is 1,215. Former President Trump's campaign says they hope to have that locked up by mid-March, so just a couple of weeks from now. We should also point out that there are other contests and delegates up for grabs in Missouri, Idaho, and D.C. this weekend, all before Super Tuesday. Molly?
Now, this politics is fast and unfolding there. Thank you for bringing it to us, and we'll be watching those numbers come in. Thank you. Mike?
Molly, for more on the 2024 race, let's bring in our panel. With us today, Forbes Tate Partners Senior VP of Public Affairs, Ryan Taylor, and Capital Counsel LLC partner, Jonathan Cott. Gentlemen, welcome. Great to have you. So Nikki Haley reported raising $12 million in February. She's in Raleigh, North Carolina. Later this hour, doesn't sound like she's going anywhere, John.
No, it doesn't. I have no idea who's giving her money, but, as a Democrat, I'm happy that she's staying in the race and keeping 40% of Republican voters saying they'll not vote for Donald Trump. I don't think that's a good sign for him in the general. I do think, she's staying in to prove a point. She has a message she wants to get out there, and I think, she's hoping she can be an alternative for Donald Trump if he gets convicted of a crime, and she's the only one with a delegate. Because right now, she'd be the only candidate in the race other than Trump who has any delegates.
Ryan, we're looking ahead to Super Tuesday. If you're on Team Haley, what's the goal?
The goal can only be a convention play at this point. After today in Michigan and Idaho, Missouri, and Super Tuesday coming up, I think the march is on for President Trump to secure the nomination, and that window is closing very quickly for Nikki Haley.
Okay, to former President Trump's influence on the Republican Party, you had Chairman Mark Green saying he was not going to run for re-election, and then he's had a change of heart after the former president urged him. What do you make of the former president's influence on the party at this point, John?
Donald Trump controls the entire Republican Party. He gets to dictate what votes come up for time on the floor. He tells people how to vote. He's put his daughter-in-law at the head of the RNC. He's bragging that he is the one that got overturned
abortion rights with the Dobbs decision, the IVF decision that was voted down this week after Tammy Duckworth offered a bill to protect IVF throughout the country. Donald Trump and Republicans opposed that. He has a full control over the Republican Party.
Okay, so Ryan, there's Congressman Green saying he'll stick around after being encouraged to do so. The former president is also reportedly pushing Steve Daines to be the next Republican leader in the Senate. In fact, let's play this soundbite from the former president. I'll get you to react to it.
People were surprised by it, but it's all going to work out. We're going to end up with a great leader.
What about the former president's influence in the state, Ryan?
Well, President Trump is not just, he's earned the right to dictate what happens inside Republican politics. But I will tell you, having worked in the Senate for nearly 15 years and having the first-hand look with members like Roger Wicker and John Barrasso, the Senate is high-risk retail politics at its finest. And it's going to, while a relationship with President Trump is going to be really important, as equally important, it's going to be legislative experience, conservative bona fides, fundraising prowess, and knowledge of Senate procedure.
You're both former Senate guys. Let me get you briefly to talk about the McConnell legacy of the party leading the Senate.
McConnell is probably one of the most influential figures in the last 40 years in our politics. He has had his hand in everything from campaign finance to judges to taxes. He controls the Senate and worked it magically. I disagree with almost everything he did, but he was a masterful tactician in the Senate. I know he probably doesn't like it known, but he's always had an open door policy, even for Democrats. A lot of my former bosses walked in and would regularly meet with him. He'll go down as a important figure.
Ryan?
Yeah, beyond the legacy of appreciating the federal judiciary, one of his outstanding accomplishments, I think, for conservatives was to protect the legislative filibuster from being obliterated by Senate Democrats a few years ago, and that has really helped us out in terms of protecting against the Biden administration.
Ryan Taylor, Jonathan Cotton, gentlemen, thanks very much.
President Biden and former President Trump making separate trips to the border Thursday to address the migrant crisis, blaming each other for the massive surge. This, as border security quickly becomes a top election issue. Rick Jenkins is live from Mission, Texas, with the latest on this. All who's breaking news for us. Rick, to you.
The man of many pockets.
Hey, Molly, it is the top issue. Latest Gallup poll says 28% are worried about immigration. We saw that in New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Iowa, and that's perhaps why we had those dueling presidential visits. Now, President Biden went to Brownsville, Texas. He was given a tour with the chief of the Border Patrol, Jason Owens, and the Second Chief, Blair Chavez, while in Eagle Pass, some 300 miles away, former President Trump was escorted by Texas Governor Abbott and Brandon Judd, the head of the Border Patrol Council Union. And around the same time on Thursday afternoon, each traded jabs at each other. Listen here.
So here's what I would say to Mr. Trump. Instead of playing politics, instead of telling members of Congress to block this legislation, join me, or I'll join you, telling the Congress to pass this bipartisan border security.
The United States is being overrun by the Biden migrant crime. It's a new form of vicious violation to our country. It's migrant crime. We call it Biden migrant crime.
Speaking of crime, Molly, look at this. Brand new, exclusive footage just a few hours ago. Our cameras over in Eagle Pass, where Mr. Trump was, our cameras capturing a smuggling operation. There were two smugglers. Both of these women were the smugglers. Officials say that they were from out of state. And there were 3 migrants. They ran, but were apprehended. Now, let me just make a note about the numbers. We can show you the presidential visits with some of the least trafficked areas. You can see of the more than 7,000 apprehensions in the last 24 hours, then the Tucson sector led with more than 1,800. San Diego followed second with over 1,200. But in the Rio Grande Valley, where we are, just 350. Del Rio, barely over 300. Now, when President Biden was in Brownsville, I did ask him if he took responsibility, Molly, for the death of Lincoln Riley, the UGA student slain by allegedly a Venezuelan migrant illegally in the country. The president chose not to answer. Molly?
Yeah,
And it did seem like perhaps that he did hear you, though. So thank you, Brett, very much for that reporting. Interesting to see the shifts and where the numbers are going most recently. Thank you, Brett. Mike?
Molly, family, friends, and classmates gathering yesterday to remember Lakin Riley, the 22-year-old nursing student who was brutally murdered on UGA's campus, allegedly at the hands of an illegal migrant. Madison Scarpino is live in Atlanta with more on the memorial service. Hello, Madison.
Hi, Mike. Yesterday was a dreary day in Riley's hometown of Woodstock, Georgia. And more than a week after the nursing student was murdered on UGA's campus, people who live around Athens are still extremely upset and on edge.
She did everything right. It just really is a tragic situation. I hope that things will change.
Hundreds of family and friends came to Woodstock City Church to honor Riley at the private service. Riley's obituary says her smile was infectious and she spread joy everywhere she went. A few days ago, Riley's mother shared a memory from her former teacher. It was a writing project Riley did in first grade about what she wanted to do in the future. Riley wrote, "When I grow up, I want to be a nurse." The coroner in Athens says Riley died from blunt force trauma to the head. Suspect Jose Ibarra's arrest affidavit says he dragged Riley's body to a secluded area, and police are calling this a crime of opportunity.
Usually when we get through something what we call passion, violence, you're very often dealing with a situation where the two are known to each other, there's a deep grudge, a domestic or something like that. This seems to be coming from a place of extraordinary violence, and yet it doesn't seem to have been spurred by anything that the victim did, which is very troubling.
And Riley's death is bringing up a lot of questions and frustrations about how the city of Athens and the country handle illegal immigration. ICE says Ibarra came to the U.S. illegally in 2022. Just a few days ago, protesters repeatedly interrupted the Athens mayor during the news conference. The mayor made it clear Athens is not a sanctuary city, while protesters screamed fire, justice for Lakin, and called him to resign. Former President Donald Trump was at the border Thursday and said he spoke with Riley's devastated parents. Trump promised to never forget Riley and blamed President Biden for the border crisis. And the accused killer's brother will be in federal court Monday on fraud charges. He was arrested during Riley's death investigation for having a fake green card. Back to you.
Madison Scarpino live in Atlanta. Madison, thanks very much. Molly?
For more on the crisis at the border, Paul Moore, Fox News contributor and former NYPD inspector, and Laura Reese, former DHS Deputy Acting Chief of Staff under President Trump, joining me now. Thank you both for giving us a little bit of time on this Saturday afternoon. We appreciate it. Laura, I want to start with you. When we look at Lakin Riley's death, preventable in the aspect when we look at policies across the country in so many sanctuary jurisdictions, whether it's cities or counties that have policies that don't allow the local authorities to work with federal courts, to work with ICE, and in this case, Ibarra appears to be falling into that group. This is someone that had been in contact with law enforcement multiple times and yet remained in the country. I want to get your thoughts on these policies, the fact that they're in so many jurisdictions, cities, counties all across the country, and we've seen in particular a result here that's been tragic.
Yes, unfortunately, this is a textbook case of what happens with sanctuary policies, and it is entirely preventable. State and local law enforcement should absolutely be working with ICE when they request detainers that criminal aliens be held in detention until ICE can come pick them up and to remove them. And so if ICE is making those requests, state and local authorities should take those very seriously and cooperate with them.
And Paul, you just wrote a piece for FoxNews.com, people can read it, talking about this case. What happened with Lakin Riley and what this, and a lot of the questions that have been raised. So I want to get your take on this as well.
I am not a man of many pockets.
So to try to go beyond the obvious, I'm a little suspicious of the fact that ICE was so willing to immediately put out that he was here illegally, and then since then has gone the no comment route. They won't answer me. I've got numerous inquiries into them, and I don't know anybody else who's been able to get any clarity on exactly the route that Jose Ibarra took to Laken Riley. And I bring this up because Venezuela is one of the temporary protected status nations. That is a policy initiative that is a creature of the Biden administration that all but walks certain people from certain nations into this country as long as they're sponsored. Now, the reporting is that Ibarra had a sponsor here in New York. I've spoken to that sponsor. It's an NGO here in New York. They disclaim all knowledge of him and say that there's been a lot of this sort of fraud, people using their name. Where does all this go? My point is this. It's almost worse than admitting that he was here illegally if, in fact, there's a procedure in place that can be so exploited that the Jose Ibarras of the world can simply walk into the country. And I'm very, very skeptical of the fact that we can't get, the president won't even say her name, and we just can't get any clarity. Where is Mayorkas to tell us this is what happened? Hold a press conference. The American people want to understand what went wrong here.
Yeah, a very great point there about procedures not being necessarily followed. So this is much deeper than just policies and different things being enacted. Both the president and the former president down on the border late last week, hundreds of miles apart, perhaps thousands of miles apart, as far as how to approach this border issue. Take a look.
This is a Joe Biden invasion. This is a Biden invasion over the past 3 years.
So here's what I would say to Mr. Trump. Instead of playing politics with this issue, instead of telling members of Congress to block this legislation, join me, or I'll join you, in telling the Congress to pass this bipartisan border security bill. We can do it together.
I just want to get your thoughts quickly on this. He's calling on the former president to take action. We know that there's a discrepancy as to what the former president did and enacted and what this president could be doing. Why is he calling on President Trump to be the one to do something?
Because he wants to shift the blame. It's an election year, and he knows that he's underwater on this issue. It's the number one issue for Americans, and he wants that heat off of himself and onto Trump and onto Congress. He is still asking for the Senate to pass that failed Schumer-Lankford bill that actually would create more victims like Blake and Riley. It would require release into the country. It would require more mass parole. It would fund billions more dollars to the NGOs that have carried out the shelter and the transportation for so many illegal aliens. We absolutely don't need that bill. We don't need more victims like Ms. Riley.
Laura Reese, thank you so much. And also, Paul Morrow, thank you very much for your insights this Saturday afternoon. Greatly appreciate it. Mike?
Thank you.
Molly, a jaw-dropping scene yesterday after a mid-afternoon crash left a semi-truck dangling over the Ohio River. And a firefighter repelled to the rescue and carried the driver to safety. More on that dramatic moment after the break.
Okay, everyone. Our mission is to provide complete balanced nutrition for strength and energy.
Ensure with 27 vitamins and minerals, nutrients for immune health, and ensure complete with 30 grams of protein.
Men tell us when they use Just for Men to eliminate gray, there's a great before and after. Then there's the after. That boost you get when you look and feel your best. And that's why more men choose Just for Men.
Choice Hotels is a family of brands that helps you get the most for your money so you can be any traveler you want to be.
You could be a free hot breakfast hero at a comfort hotel.
Yes!
That's how you waffle. A romantic weekend escaper at a Cambria hotel. Or Mr. Get the Party Started.
Be a pool lounger or a big room relaxer. With 22 brands and the best value for your money, Choice Hotels has a stay for any you. Stay twice and get a free night when you book direct at choicehotels.com. Gotta get the corners.
When our country used to flex its muscle with battleships like the USS Iowa, the world would listen. It's time we return to the America I remember. Hi, I'm William Devane. There are dangerous forces everywhere pulling our country apart, threatening our economy and our way of life. That's why I'm going to do two things: support our military and buy gold from Rosalind Capital. I've never felt safe relying on paper money to protect my assets. That's why I buy gold from Rosalind. With Rosalind, what you order is what you get. No gimmicks, no nonsense, no hassle. We're all safer with our ships patrolling the seas. And my assets are a whole lot safer with gold from Rosalind Capital. So ask yourself, are you safe?
Call now to get your
free gold, silver, and IRA kits. For a limited time, Roslyn is offering up to $15,000 in free gold to qualifying new customers. Call 800-630-8900. That's 800-630-8900. The regime in Iran is able to produce 7 nuclear weapons.
Robert Greenway has insight. Plus, Stephen Calorisi reacts to Trump's legal fights on Mike 30 in the Bend.
In a time full of war and peace, in a time full of doubt, you're strong. In a world full of hate and
People are talking?
Yeah, they're impressed.
inspired by a true story. Next Goal Wins is heartfelt and hilarious.
You have zero talent, skill, or understanding of the game.
The perfect underdog movie. The weak, they are not weak. It's Taika Waititi's best film yet.
We've worked too long and hard for this.
Next Goal Wins.
Every penny I was making was spent on drugs. When I found out about what the United Way could do, on the phone, talking with someone saying,
All right, guys, we'll quit here for today. We'll see you next time.
I might as well be dead. I'm 14 years clean. Never thought that would be possible. United Way made that possible.
This is Wild.